Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. Most of the call is going to be devoted to you all get a chance to meet or electronically meet our two new field organizers. So this is Ken speaking, and I think many of you already know that we are reorganizing our paid staff. Scully has taken a step back to do some volunteer work for us. She's moving to Cheyenne and going to be helping out in Cheyenne a little bit. And a few weeks ago, we announced that we had hired Jen Lorenz from Cody to be a field organizer, and now we've also added Shayna Alexander. So both are on the call tonight, and the main purpose of the call is to let Shayna and Jen tell you what our plan is going forward, how the county teams and the volunteers can work with them, what kind of support that they can provide to everybody, and give us a little pep talk about how we're going to get from where we are right now to the finish line. We're at a critical stage right now. This is the time when politics heats up in the summertime. Politics in Wyoming is a summer sport, and it's now summer. So we need to really be out every day, every week, gathering signatures. We've got a long way to go. I think we can do it. We need to recruit more volunteers. We need to get out to events. We need to do some door-to-door canvassing. And Jen and Shayna have a plan. So at this point, I'm going to just turn it over to Jennifer and Shayna. So we can unmute. I think Jennifer and Shayna are now unmuted. You want to say hello?
Hello, everyone. This is Jennifer.
Hi, this is Shayna.
And Shayna's on there, too. Yes, good. So you guys have the mic. So let us know. Take it away and let us know what our plan is.
Welcome, Shayna. And I know Shayna's going to share a little bit about herself and what wonderful things she also sees for us in the future. I'm just going to get some of the strategic pieces and parts of what we have worked out, and that is as a way to support those county teams in the best way we can. We've decided to provide better accessibility to the state field organizers. We are going to split the state basically in two. We're going to share a couple of counties as far as being a lead organizer to provide that support to those counties. And regionally, we both live in separate counties or corners of the state, which makes it very easy for us to make the split in that state, in the state that we have, which is basically it's kind of a northwest and southeast kind of a split. We're going to share Natrona and Converse counties to really try to vamp up those numbers of volunteers and get out there and start getting some signatures. We will have that list of the specific counties that will be under either one of us, and we, of course, working in tandem, will be available to anyone that should need us. We'll just have a primary point of contact for the counties. Basically, we have gotten to where we have gotten because of what the volunteers have done. Every volunteer and every effort they have made is just invaluable to this effort, and we have 5 months left. So we really need to kick it in gear, as Ken said, and to do that, we know we're going to need far more active volunteers. And to do that, we really want to create a lot of good buzz and a lot of publicity for recruiting of the volunteers. Also, enhancements to our materials and online presence to aid in message delivery and also in that recruitment of volunteers. It's kind of rough to get somebody to come into it new and teach them and train them all the parts and pieces. We want to make that easier for you. And in conjunction with that, right in unison with it, we also recognize that our candidate support is critical to that. We need to gather that information from those candidates. Do you support us? And will you sign our petition? As well as, hey, will you support a potential resolution at the legislative level if you actually win the seat? But we also can use that at county level. These local celebrities of those folks running for office, we can capture their signature and their permission to utilize that information. Man, we sure can use that as we're talking with folks and saying, hey, you know, candidate B, he's on this side of the ticket or that side of the ticket, but he's for this. And who knows how many more signatures we can get just by utilizing that connection. So we actually are putting out a survey, which I'm sure Ken will speak more to later, but that survey will be capturing that information. This is an online survey to capture that information so that we can utilize it to put it on our website and publish that the candidates who do support us. Also, just a final point would be in building of that publicity, we really need to just take full advantage of an award that's coming to the organization here at the end of the month. And by doing that, that prime opportunity to publicize what our goals are, what our purpose is, and really start creating some more buzz in that. And with that, I'd like to hand it over to Shana.
Before Shana jumps in, I wanted to say one thing very quickly, and that is it turns out that this getting money out of politics is turning out to be one of the key issues in the statewide politics this summer. A lot of candidates out there right now are running on the platform of they're not going to take PAC money, they want to get money out of politics. It's a pretty hot issue, and not just in Democrats. A lot of Republicans are running on that issue. So I think we've been noticed. I think we've raised this to the public consciousness, and it's time to capitalize on that. Okay, Shana, go ahead.
Hey, all. Thank you so much. So I just wanted to quickly introduce myself. My name is Shana Alexander. I live over in Cheyenne with my family. I moved here about 3 years ago from Hawaii, and I'm not a stranger to progressive politics and statewide organizing in general. And, you know, after the 2016 election, I was upset that realizing how much money we make and the zip code we live in dictated whether our voices and votes were being heard by the folks representing us. That if you can throw in like 80 grand, 100 grand into your race, that's a guarantee that you're going to win, and not necessarily if you've done the most work or you're the most qualified or you've talked to your neighbors, like what organizing and community outreach is supposed to be, right? To represent and listen to those voices that are in your community. So I'm in it to win it. I think that we need to fight for the future and the lives and the representation we deserve. And to echo a lot what Jen was saying, over the next 5 months, we're going to quadruple our efforts. That means, you know, putting together a strong team of volunteers and advocates to reach our goal. We have a pathway to victory, but we need everyone's help. It's all hands on deck. Like what Ken was saying earlier, it's becoming a hot button issue nationwide, and it's more so in Wyoming. We're hearing that candidates are being confronted all the time about like the money they're raising. Where are they getting that money? We know candidates get a lot of out-of-state money, and like, does that mean they're really representing Wyoming values and Wyoming people? Moving forward, we'll be coordinating virtual trainings and weekly check-ins with team leaders and data managers. We want everyone to know exactly how we plan to win and how they can help, and tracking our progress along the way so that we know what works and what doesn't. This is as grassroots as it gets, so it's important that every volunteer feels connected and supported as we grow. So you can expect to see a lot of changes in the coming weeks on the materials we put out, from our social media game to our website, to even just getting to know me and Jen. We think that moving forward, you're going to really get to know us, and I want every single volunteer to feel like they found a new friend, and that they feel like the Wyoming Promise is, this campaign belongs as much to the staffers and the committee as much as it belongs to the volunteers. We couldn't have gotten this far without you guys. And I'm super looking forward to getting to know all of you. And that's all that I have so far.
One thing I'll say, this is Shelby Shadwell, treasurer for Wyoming Promise. Just to touch on a couple of these things. Thank you so much to Jen and Shayna for all that they're doing and helping us. Really, we started this as an effort that where we're kind of learning as we go, and Jen and Shayna bring a lot of knowledge to this effort, and so we're really happy to have them on board. I do want to touch on something that I think Jen mentioned, which is that we'll be publicizing more as we move forward. But American Promise, which is a group that we loosely affiliate with at the national level, and is awarding Al Simpson as well as Wyoming Promise awards. As for Wyoming Promise, it's the National Citizen Leadership Award. Of all the folks working on this issue in the country, we were singled out to be given this particular award. And it's not for Ken or Lynn or me or Shayna or Jen. It's for all of you on this call, and all the volunteers that have gotten us this far. It's not a award that goes just to us. It really is for all of you. And it just goes to show that what we're doing here in Wyoming, a state that some folks write off as unchangeable or kind of status quo. No, people take note on the national level. So I just want to congratulate everybody and let you know that we'll be publicizing that more and letting you know more about that as we move forward. Ken, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, so I have a question actually for Jen and for Shayna to kind of elaborate a little bit on what Shayna was saying, and Jen. How is it going to look different to the county team leaders in terms of relationships between the team leaders and the field organizers? What kind of things are you hoping to be able to do in the next couple of weeks to get things kicked off and move into high gear?
This is Jen. What the biggest piece is we need introduction. We need to find out exactly what's going on in the county that we can provide the support with, finding out what those folks who know exactly what's going on in their counties, because they live there, they know it the best. Let us know what they need, as well as, what do they want to do? Is there things that, they would, ideas they have that are just on the cusp of trying to get them into place? What can we do to assist them in capturing those signatures required, but also sharing the information about the issue, knowing that we're building the platform for selling a yes vote in the next 2 years. So once we get these signatures and we get this initiative on the ballot, we have a whole other 2 years of campaign ahead of us. Shana?
Yeah, I mean, Jen talked about what I envision moving forward. And also, just to touch upon politics is all about relationships. So to me, I always find it very important whenever I, volunteer my time or go to an event or sign up to do something, I consider it a success if I've made 2 more friends, right? That this should be fun, that this should be something we're all sharing, we're all doing this work together because we have the same values, because we have a goal, and that we know we can't get anything done without each other. So I see us moving forward. You're going to see that Jen and I are going to become your best friend, who also sometimes calls you up and says, hey, I want to know how many signatures you guys got this week. Because that all buys into this bigger picture that we're all moving towards.
So Shayna, one of the things in our conversations in the last couple of weeks that you've identified, and a lot of our county team leaders have identified too, is we have a large number of volunteers, but many of them are not really all that enthusiastic anymore. They're starting to peel off a little bit. Do you have some thoughts on how we can engage our volunteer base and get them engaged again and help raise their enthusiasm?
Yeah, definitely. first off, I want to say burnout is real, right? Like when you have the same 5 people who are constantly knocking doors, constantly putting together events, constantly trying to fundraise to, print out some materials, burnout is such a huge thing. And I think what we can help moving forward is helping you build your team, right? Like there are online, and sometimes we're just going to have to phone bank and call folks who said, you know what, I care about getting money out of politics. So we need to actually give those folks who want to help an opportunity so that it's not just the same people who are doing the same thing. And, when you finally see that progress and you finally see, you know what, okay, like we're going to change it up a bit of how we've been organizing. I'm going to make 20, 30 phone calls tonight and call folks who say that they care about this issue, and I'm going to ask them to show up. And hopefully, they will, and you'll have a bigger team. You'll have more people to delegate that work to and help us accomplish our goal.
And this is Shelby. I just want to open it up to Lynn, one of the committee of applicants, who has her hand up, and to speak. Feel free to speak, Lynn.
Thank you, Shelby, Ken, Shana, and Jennifer. Really appreciate everything everyone's doing. What I'd like to do now is hear from the volunteers. I think we've probably talked enough, so I'd like to hear from the volunteers in terms of what they identify as some barriers to energizing this campaign and what we can do to help.
And so, Ken, do you have anything to say? For as
no, I do see that Diane Ernst has her hand up, so I'm unmuting Diane. Diane, what's your question or comment?
Oh, I just was going to say right off the bat, maybe would you mind, you guys, running down who's got what counties and what is your preferred way for us to contact you, Jen and Shana? You said you had the state divided, kind of. Maybe you could just tell us which counties each of you has, and then again, like what's our best way to get a hold of you if we need something?
Sure. I actually have a picture of the state in front of me. This is Jennifer.
Uh-huh.
And the way it basically looks is Crook, Weston, Niobrara, Platte, Goshen, Laramie, Albany, Carbon, and Sweetwater would all fall with Shana. We will take Latrona and Converse, and we're going to just share effort there. So then that would leave Campbell, Sheridan, Johnson, Bighorn, Washakie, Hot Springs, Park, Teton, Fremont, Sublette, Lincoln, and Unita with me. And as far as that, I'm going to be reaching out with emails to all the county team leaders, but I'm happy to provide you with my phone number and my email address right now. So it's Jennifer Lorenz, Lorenz, my cell phone, which can be text or call, 307-578-7152. And my email address is jennifer.lorenz@gmail.com.
If anybody would,
yeah,
if anybody,
Shana.
Yeah, and let Shana talk. And if anybody wants either of those repeated, press a number on your dial pad, and we can repeat those.
Hey there. So this is Shana. My name is, so it's Shana Alexander, Shayna, and my phone number is 808, I know it's Hawaii area code, 808-232-9161. And so again, that's 808-232-9161. And my email is Shayna, Shayna, .Alexander@gmail.
Okay, good. So I see Sarah has her hand up. Sarah, you are unmuted.
I forgot my first question. Oh, no, I got it now. Jennifer, do you spell your name weirdly or traditional Jennifer? Or could you spell that, please?
Absolutely. It is a traditional Jennifer, Jennifer.
Okay. And then my question was, it seems like, we can text, we can call, we can email. People don't answer their cell phone if they don't recognize the number. People get thousands of emails and they don't answer their emails. What's left for communicating in trying to get people on these calls or get them to, meet up before we go to an event, a public event with petitions? We're kind of at a loss, short of going to their home address, of how do you get people to communicate when they won't answer?
That's a tough one. It really is. I mean, and that, I think, goes back to some of what Sheena was saying about burnout can happen, and did this volunteer just decide they didn't want to do it anymore? And at what point do we move on to find some more? I am more than happy to call, and I know Sheena is too, and really revamp and try to re-encourage folks to rejoin us. So if there are some folks on your list where they showed up a time or two, they were great help, and you'd love to have them back, please share that information so that we can individually reach out to them. We also have, Ken, Shelby, and Lynn that can urge if we feel we need to have that phone call made. So we have some resources at our disposal to hopefully encourage them to come back. So please share their information with me.
Shana, anything to add?
Well, just that, I totally understand. Volunteer recruitment is one of the hardest things to do, right? Because you're basically asking somebody to come and show up and do some work, right? Like, let's get to work. And sometimes it's not the most fun thing, and I think that's what probably is what really is needed, is that, if you're going to have an event or you're asking someone to show up, it's important to do, the get to know each other type of things, right? The icebreakers, making sure if someone shows up, they feel welcome, that you introduce them to everyone who's in the room or who's out to go and canvas, so that they feel that they're part of something, that it's not just I'm going to spend all these hours grueling talking to people at this event or on the doors, that they feel super valued, that their time is valued. And also, or at least I'm at that college student age. I show up to anything where I'm fed. That could also be another thing. If there's food, I will come. And that can also be built into some of our training that we can do moving forward, of what are the best ways to connect with folks, what are the best ways to build those relationships so that volunteers keep coming back. So that also you're growing the base. So we're not always just trying to convince one person to show up to an event who showed up before, but let's talk to 5 new people who have expressed some interest, and let's have a 5-minute conversation or 10-minute conversation with them about getting them to show up. Yeah, that's all I really have.
Okay, thank you. Lois Peterson up in Johnson County. You have a hand up? You are unmuted. Go ahead.
Actually, I put my hand up because I wasn't sure of the spelling of Lorenz's last name.
Okay. Lohrenz.
Okay, I got that. Yeah. Ours is such a small community or small town, and the number of signatures we need are so few. We've done it kind of different than a lot of people, and we've done it with kind of a blitz type of thing. You just try to get a lot of information out for a month's worth of time. So you're hitting everything at the same time: the radio, the news, the posters on the bulletin boards at the bank, or whatever. And then so people know the issue, and when you do talk to them, they are aware that you're out there doing it. And that's helped a lot with a small community. I don't know if it works so well with a big one, but it made a big difference here. We didn't finish because we also have the burnout thing going on. We're pretty close to being finished, but it is hard to keep that momentum up. And and we keep thinking, well, we can do it. We still have just a few to go, and we can get that done in 5 months. So we're sort of putting it off type of thing. But maybe you can help regenerate some interest there with the few that are still working actively here.
And Johnson County is closest of all the counties to its goal. Albany County is second, so Albany's getting there, but Johnson's really close, and thank you so much, Lois. I understand that a large number of those signatures are due to your efforts personally, so really want to thank you, but also your team up there for doing great work.
And that's one of the things. Are you still listening? Yeah.
Yes, go ahead.
If you have somebody in, the people in your counties that are members of organizations, if you can get one person that is a member of an organization to take it around, they can get usually the people in that organization or that club or that church group or whatever, because they know you. And so you want people who are involved with things, not people who are outsiders who just have a political interest, because they will sign if they know you. That's what I found out.
Yes, good advice. Thank you. Okay, so next we have Christy Garretts. Christy, up in Gillette, you are unmuted. Go ahead.
Thank you. I was wondering who's going to be the main data wrangler. Will Jennifer be ours since she has our part of the state, our county, or how are you going to do that?
Jennifer?
Did you? Oh. Thank you. Yeah, we will be splitting that role. So as that primary contact for you in the organizational position, we will also provide that support for that data wrangler and perform any additional trainings for any new recruits for that role.
Hey, thank you.
Right.
Yeah, Lynn.
Yeah, I've been ramping out.
Oops. Lynn, are you there? Oh, I'm sorry. Lynn's been distracted, I think. So I think next was Margie Farias up in Lander. Go ahead, Margie. You are unmuted.
Hi, Ken. I got here late, so I missed the very beginning of this call. Sorry. I was out canvassing. Anyway, I did get an email from Jennifer, I think it was last week, and she was in Riverton, I think, and I did not hear back from her, but I will give her a call. I got her phone number. I also am having a time with getting people involved, that have petitions, but they're just, I don't know, they're preoccupied. But nonetheless, I do have a small handful of people who are making an effort, and I'm encouraged by that. I have several people who've asked me about the numbers. If we have a new update on that, that would be great to know, because I haven't heard any recently. And I'd just like to say that it's helpful to know that, other people are making progress as well as Fremont County. It's kind of, it helps, fuel the fire, so to speak. So if we could get that, that would be great. And if I had somebody who would help me contact people, that would be super, because like the lady before said, folks don't answer their phone, they don't answer their texts, and you're down to just going to their houses, and I don't have time to do that. I've got to work for a living, so I've got to make the best of my time anyway. So that's all I got at the moment.
Okay, thank you. And I did get Shana did provide me with an update on our numbers. We had a little bit of a hiccup with our numbers. We weren't quite sure what we were looking at with the handoff on data management, but I think we're good now. And it looks like Fremont County is in third place in terms of goal, we have verified signatures from Fremont of 1,794, which is 54% of your goal, and that puts you in third place towards your goal, which is great. We will send this around. Things are still in the handoff process of Scully was sending things around, and now we're trying to figure out who's doing what. So we will get this out to all of the data managers here and county team leaders maybe tonight or tomorrow. We'll send that around, and but you guys are doing great up there, and keep it up.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate
as soon
that.
Yeah, thank you, Margie, so much. And it's Margie Farias, I believe. Correct, Margie?
Yes.
Oh, well, because I made that mistake a number of times. In the recap email, I just want to let everybody know, we'll get around this information, including the county. We'll send out contact information for Shana and Jen, just so everybody has that. We'll send out most current numbers. We will also send out which counties Jen and Shana are responsible for. And we're going to have a recording of this call as well. So I know some folks can't make certain conference calls with everything going on, but I've heard from a number of people over the months that having a recording of these calls is very valuable. So we will send that out too, and we hope that you'll share it with folks that couldn't be on this call.
Okay, good. So next up we have Chris Carfanta up in Sheridan. You guys are doing great work up in Sheridan too. Chris, you are unmuted.
Hi. It's great to hear that there are people from across the state on this call. It's reassuring and comforting, and it sounds like many of us have similar issues. I want to just ask for some sort of general guidance on places that we are totally okay within our rights to petition. I know, in front of courthouses or post offices, etc. But, there's a lot of public events in public parks, and we had this conversation the other day. Of course, we don't want to, be, make anybody mad. On the other hand, I kind of am leaning toward the idea of asking for forgiveness rather than for permission at community events. And then if somebody comes up to you and says, hey, we don't appreciate you being there, say, sorry, we're so sorry about that, we'll leave. Just maybe kind of, especially to help newer counties or people just getting started, it might be nice to have that.
Yeah, and I think you're right that the attitude of asking for forgiveness rather than permission is sometimes a good one to go by here. But you're absolutely right. We don't want to become controversial. We don't want to become the issue. We want to solve problems, not make problems. And also, we need, as I think Jen mentioned earlier, we are not just gathering signatures to get on the ballot. We are also building support for a yes vote down the road. And if people are mad at us, we don't want to get them. That's going to impair the yes vote down the road. So we've got to be careful. But generally, the Wyoming Constitution is pretty strong on the right of citizens to petition. I know we had an issue in Albany County on the university. They tended to not want us to do certain areas. They didn't want us going in through office buildings and places like that. But they were okay with us being out in Prex's pasture or being at the football games, going through the tailgate parties and things like that. We were able to do all that without any interference from the university. The student union was fine. They had no problem with us walking through there all the time. So basically, if you feel like you're comfortable being there, you're invited to be there as a member of the public, you're, I think, safe to be carrying your petition around.
Thanks.
Okay, so we have Lynn. See if Lynn is back. Lynn, you are unmuted.
Thank you. And if I I was gone for a short period of time. I apologize for that. We run an Airbnb, and a guest arrived, and I had to show her to recorders, so I apologize. Last year, during the summer, I was carrying a petition around to a farmer's market in Cody, Wyoming, and was told that even though it was outside and it was on the parking lot of a building that houses the public library, the people at the farmer's market said, we have paid for this, that the individual vendors have paid for this piece of the location that they were, selling their wares and their foods. And they said, so therefore, we've decided as a group you can't do it. That was one of the situations where I actually did ask for permission. Like the previous caller stated, better to just ask for forgiveness rather than ask for permission. I thought I would just go ahead and ask for permission. They walked away and then came back and said, no, we've decided you can't do it. So, am I within my rights this summer, to say, hey, this is a public spot, it's a public parking lot. They may have paid money to the city, to rent it, but it's still public. I mean, do I have any recourse, in other words, this summer? Ken?
I don't know the answer to that. I would think that if you paid money for a table, you could do it. You couldn't put up a table there for free without paying for it. But if you're just walking around, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. The public's invited to be in that space, and you're a member of the public. But again, this falls into the category of how much of a problem do you want to create. I had a similar situation last summer, about a year ago, at the Old Bill Fun Run in Jackson. It's a huge event, and it's a fundraising event, and it's designed to raise money for all kinds of charities and all kinds of organizations throughout Wyoming. So I was interviewed. I planned a public event in Jackson on that weekend, and I said, and we had the thing in the newspaper saying I'm going to be walking around at the Old Bill Fun Run before, and then the events afterwards. And I got a call from the Old Bill Fun Run organizer saying, don't you dare circulate petitions at our event. We paid for the space, and you're not welcome. Even though they're fundraising for folks, and I walked around with my Wyoming Promise T-shirt on to just show the flag, but I didn't create an issue. So I don't want to be controversial. And it's a judgment call. You've got to be real careful not to make I don't want to become the story. I want to get people to feel good about us.
Ken, this is Shelby. I'm in on that real quick. Ken and I are going to be dropping off a list of approved circulators to the Secretary of State's office tomorrow. And we're going to be asking the Secretary of State questions. And this sounds like a great question to ask the office. So I'm glad that we've got questions, and we can approach the Secretary of State's office with these questions, especially, just to make sure that where we are definitely within our rights. And so we'll do a little recap or an email to everybody as well about this issue specifically, where you can petition, what you can and can't do, and we'll make sure to make that clear to everybody as we move forward. I hope that sounds like a good idea to everyone, because it's an important question and one we've gotten for the whole duration of the petition drive. So we want to clarify for everybody on these questions. So Ken, let's do that for sure. Yeah,
great idea. Absolutely.
Okay, and
so Kathy Denman has her hand up. Kathy, you're unmuted. Go ahead.
Well, Ken, it's not me. It's Michael, because he can explain it a whole lot better. It was messier than messy.
Well, it was, but what we did, we expected we had some questions ourselves, so before the Flaming Gorge Day event in Green River,
Flaming Gorge.
Oh, that's right, it was a River Fest.
Yeah.
Event in Green River, we went to the city council and mayor at one of their regular meetings and just asked them, can we do this and under what situation? And they gave us, at Riverfest, they said we could petition on the street, but not on the island itself.
Not in the booth.
And not in the booth, but the organizer of that event balked at that and kicked us out once, and then the mayor talked to her and she kicked us out again. And you don't want to have that. You don't want to cause problems, even if you're right.
Right, exactly.
But she no longer works in that position. She left that position, I think,
within 6 months.
Within 6 months, but I don't think it was. I don't think she found a better job. I'll put it that way.
Okay. Well, thanks for all your work out there.
But that's one thing is that ask if it's a public place, ask your city council and your mayor.
And we went in and asked the postmaster here where we could petition in front of the post office, because we'd heard pros and cons about that one too. And they said as long as we were in the parking lot and not blocking the entrance to the door to the post office, then he was fine with that. So, but I'm sure if we went to Rock Springs,
it might be different.
It might be different. So, cover your bases.
I know they've had good luck in front of the post office in Cheyenne too, so it probably varies depending on the postmaster. Okay, well, thank you, Kathy and Mike, for all your great work out there in Sweetwater. Now we have Sarah once again. Sarah, you're unmuted.
Yeah, I thought of an answer to my question about how to get a hold of people when they won't respond to emails or phone calls. And short of going to the house, good old-fashioned snail mail in an attractive, hand written envelope that doesn't look like a bill or maybe even like a colored envelope that looks like a card that somebody will open up and then plead your case for them to take your phone call or, give them information about events that as a group that we could petition at, because we've got a bunch of weekend things here in Cheyenne in June that, are large crowds and more than one petitioner, so you can have that group thing, and meet some of these people that are just phone calls to, kind of introduce yourself so they will take your call or will answer your text. So that's what I'm going to do is get some nicely colored envelopes and write to the people that won't answer the phone or the emails.
That's a great idea. I think that should work really well. Thank you for that suggestion. Okay, we have one more hand up, and then we want to make a few announcements and take a few more final questions. But Margie Farias, Margie, you have your hand up again. You are unmuted.
Thank you. I just want to say that I've been at numerous events, including farmers markets. I've tabled there, and I've just walked around with my petition. There was no problem. But even if you're tabling, sometimes you have to reach out and kind of talk. You got to walk around because people don't approach your table when they think it's political. So I think just circulating is probably as effective, if not more so. As long as you aren't interrupting somebody who's a potential sale at the farmer's market or at a crafts fair or something, and don't interrupt, the vendor doesn't really care. As long as you're not interrupting them and you're not interrupting a sale that they might be making. The last thing I want to say is that this weekend in Fremont County is the State Democratic Convention, and I'm going to be tabling there, and so I hope to be getting some signatures from maybe all of the counties, and I just thought I'd tell everybody out there that hopefully we'll get a few from that will be supporting your personal efforts. So that's our goal here this weekend, to get everybody who's coming from around the state. That's all.
Sounds great, and thank you for all that work. I'm going to be at the convention myself. I'm a delegate from Albany County, so I will be circulating my petition inside, so we'll have several people working on that as well. So thank you so much for all that help. And before we get to some announcements, Lynn has her hand up. Lynn, you're unmuted.
Regarding the state Democratic convention this weekend, I'm glad you brought that up, Margie. I'm not going to be able to be there, but I think we need to have not only volunteers, petition circulators, but we also need to be putting the word out that we need more volunteer petition circulators. So, Margie, Ken, if you get people coming in and signing from counties that don't yet have county team leaders or don't have real adequate representation, what a great opportunity to ask those people if you can get their contact information and we can get them on board as volunteer petition circulators or data wranglers for their county or county team leaders. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so there's no other hands up. I do have a few announcements I wanted to bring up and then throw it open again for some final thoughts or questions. And some of these we've already talked about a little bit already, but just kind of things to be aware of. I think everybody knows that Wyoming Promise, and Shelby mentioned this earlier, Wyoming Promise getting a national award. We're going to be called up to the main stage at the National Citizens Leadership Conference in Washington, D.C., which is happening end of this month, which is fantastic. And we didn't. They're giving two awards out. One, they're giving an award to some senators and former senators who have been huge supporters of this work. Al Simpson's getting an award, along with John McCain and a few other folks are going to be getting an award for their leadership in this issue. And then they're doing the Citizens Leadership Award. I'm not sure if we're the only. There may be several awards given out, but we're getting one of the Citizens Leadership Awards. And that's going to be an opportunity we're going to take advantage of to get some photographs and also use that as a fundraising effort to try and generate some cash. Now that we have two part-time field organizers, we're going to have to crank up our fundraising efforts, and we'll crank that up. Second point I wanted to make, and that is right after that conference, there's going to be Lobby Day. The conference runs Friday, Saturday, Sunday, the last weekend of June. And by the way, if anybody wants to go to that, please let me know. We have a delegation now. Lynn and her husband Rod are going. Shelby's going. I'm going. If anybody else wants to go, let us know, and we'll hook up with you down there, and it'd be great to get a good group of people in D.C. On Monday, after the conference, we are going to be meeting with our congressional delegation. And Jen has been working on getting a schedule. She's already got a meeting scheduled with Senator Barrasso, who's going to meet with Shelby's not going to be able to make that, but Rod and Lynn and I will be able to meet with him. We're trying to set up meetings also with Senator Enzi and Representative Cheney, and but also it's not just going to be us. It's going to be people from all over the country meeting with their delegations. So a lot of the attendees at this conference are going to be meeting with the delegations, with their representatives to try and get some movement. There's several bills in Congress right now that would propose a 28th Amendment, and if Congress were to do it, that would be great. We would be then in a position of trying to get it ratified, but we've got to get it opposed. I personally don't have a lot of confidence that Congress is going to do it, but especially with our delegation, all three of them take so much money from out of state, 90 to 95% of their money, or higher even, is from out of state. So I'm not harboring a lot of hope that we're going to convince them, but we're going to make the effort anyway. We're down there, and we're going to try and get them to see that this is a big issue, and they shouldn't stand in our way. And hopefully we will be able to say we have 15,000, 20,000 signatures in hand right now, and we're going to get the rest of the summer. your constituents want this, and please help us out. And we'll report back as to what we find out from our delegation. And the third thing I wanted to mention is along those lines, since we don't have a lot of confidence in our congressional delegation, we have more confidence in our state legislators. And that's a big effort that we are underway with. And Jen mentioned this a moment ago, at the beginning of the meeting, that we have a survey. It's a short survey, a couple questions, that basically ask them to tell us whether they support getting money out of politics, whether they support saying corporations are not people, a couple questions along those lines. And also, then, the last question is, are you willing to have your name listed on the Wyoming Promise website as a supporter of our 20th Amendment effort? And if so, can you give us a little quote? So we're in the process. We're going to be sending that out to every registered candidate. We have the list now from the registration time is closed, so all the candidates are now announced. We've downloaded the list from the Secretary of State, and we're going to email every single campaign for state legislature, candidates and sitting legislators, and ask them to take the survey and tell us whether they support our work or not. And hopefully we'll generate a fair number of people that we can then list on the website as supporters of our work. As I said earlier, this is becoming a campaign issue in a lot of campaigns around the state. So I think we're going to have a fair number of people from both parties saying, yes, I support your work, please list me on your list, because I think a lot of people see this as a winning issue for their campaign. So it's a two-step process. We'll send the email out on Friday saying, here's the link to take the survey and please sign up. And then all of you on the call and all your volunteers can also start talking to the legislative candidates, sitting legislators, or candidates for office, and say, have you gotten that email? Have you taken the survey? Do you support us? Let's get them talking about it, because if we can start generating support among the legislators and the people who are going to sit in Cheyenne in January, that'll help us get this through the legislature. I still have confidence that we're going to get enough signatures to be on the ballot, but even if we don't, we can still go back to the legislature and say, look at this, we have X number of thousands of signatures. Can you approve this? Whether we're on the ballot or not, we want to go back to the legislature and ask them to call for a convention of states or to call on Congress to propose this amendment. Please, when you're out meeting people and talking to folks, talk to the candidates and see if you can't get them on board. And the last thing I want to mention is that fundraising is going to become a big issue now. And right before this call, we had a smaller call with just Lynn and Shana and Jen and Shelby and I, and we're talking about the relationships and how we're all going to work together. And one thing that came out loud and clear was that fundraising is big, and fundraising is something that Shelby and Lynn and I need to step up and work on. So there will be some occasions when we're going to ask people, some volunteers, to help out. One idea that we had was to sponsor some house parties around the state. So invite some friends to a meeting and get people to come to a meeting, learn about the issue, and donate $50, $100, whatever, a piece to raise some money that way. So we might need some help from some of you who are willing to do that kind of a thing for us. But those plans are still kind of in the works, and we're going to work on them very quickly. So you may be hearing from us one more time about stuff like that. So that's all that I have. Shelby, did you have anything else that you wanted to say? And then let's also open it up for any more questions that people might have. Shelby,
all I would say before we get to any other questions is definitely we want to keep getting the signatures and do that, but also this survey to our legislators, our state legislators, is an important one. The thing is, even if we get enough signatures to get it on the ballot, the legislature has the chance to take this up and adopt this. And so what that would, in the next session, and what that would do is save us 2 years of work to get the signatures on that we need to get it approved on the ballot. So, there is something to be said for this survey and making sure, seeing where our legislators are, our state legislators. Some are very supportive, some may not be, and some we don't know. So we just want to know where they stand, and that will help us be able to contact them and do the outreach we need to do to see if we can't get this done in the legislative session. And if we get enough signatures to get it on the ballot and they won't do it, that's fine. We'll get it on the ballot and we'll win it statewide. But if we get enough signatures, or even if we don't, but we're in touch with our legislators, we could get this done real quick. Like our goal to get this on the ballot in 2020, we could get it done in 2019. So that is an important part of this. It's an important piece. So that's all I wanted to say. So we'll be more in touch with that. But if there's any other questions, Ken, you want to feel?
Yeah, there's 2 hands up right now, so I'm going to unmute Lynn. Go ahead, Lynn. You're unmuted.
The only other thing I wanted to add, and I think both Ken and Shelby gave a great overview in terms of the direction that we're going. The only other thing that I do want to add is that if there is any volunteers on the call or any volunteers that know other volunteers that they think are passionate enough about this issue that they would be willing to serve on the steering committee. We're starting to open up the steering committee to a more regional representation, and one of the things that we really need is the fundraising piece. So if there's someone that would like to serve on the steering committee but also know that means that person is either going to be actively involved in fundraising or they're willing to donate a good amount of money to what we're doing. I think Shelby could probably tell us what the donation would be that we want to limit to less than, I can't remember, Shelby, whether it was $3,000 or $5,000.
Yeah, this is Shelby again. I think we don't want to get $1 million donation from a giant donor or corporation. But we'd be interested in speaking with anybody who's willing to give a high dollar contribution and just talk to them about, if somebody did want to give that amount, we would talk to them for sure. But yeah, this has all been small dollar donations, and it's been 90% from in the state of Wyoming. So we're very proud of that. We want to keep that momentum going. It keeps us from looking like we are influenced by anybody else. So and every donation, everything that's donated is in the public record. So it's a very transparent campaign that we're doing here.
One of the things.
Yeah, and
am I still on?
Yes, you're on. Go ahead, Lynn.
Okay, thank you. One of the things that passionate volunteers can do would be to donate, say, for example, $28 a month, every month, $50 a month every month, that kind of thing, or an in-kind donation. Say, a volunteer says, what I would like to do is I'd like to pay for some advertising for an event that's being planned, or I'd like to pay for some materials that are going to be part of that planned event. So those are some ways that we can really use some additional money. Every time we have additional money, it improves our resources with getting this network across the state to help energize our issue, hear our voice, and get us closer to the signatures that we need. So if you know of anyone that throughout the state that would be interested in serving on the steering committee and is someone who is willing to put a little bit of money where their mouth is, I'm not asking for big donations, but someone who's willing to do some fundraising or do an in-kind donation or something like that to keep this going, that would be very, very appreciated. And you can just let Ken or Shelby or myself know, and or for that matter, Shana or Jen, but probably more Ken or Shelby and I, since we're going to be doing the bulk of the fundraising effort. Thank you.
Thank you, Lynn. And I think we did make an agreement at the last steering committee meeting that the highest donor possible would be 5,000. We don't want anybody to go over 5,000. We don't want anybody to look like they are in charge of this or have undue influence over this. So high dollar means no more than 5,000 tops. We have two more questions, and then we'll wrap it up here. And I'm going to unmute Melody Nielsen from Cheyenne. Melody, you have the mic.
Hello. I'm looking forward to seeing you both tomorrow, and we're getting ready for the forum. That's what I was doing this evening. We're preparing for tomorrow evening. I was going to also, I am with Wyoming Alliance, and we are having a town hall with a congressional town hall, so it is going to have all candidates running against Barrasso and Cheney. And hopefully they will be there too, but we will see. We haven't heard from them. But most everybody else is going to be there, and this is next Thursday. So we also have Dave Lerner, who is the moderator, and he has just asked us for questions or debate questions type things to discuss with these candidates. And you brought up about, is there a way you could give me, excuse me, tomorrow maybe bring me the questions or dealing with them becoming involved? Are they involved with Wyoming Promise, and how do they feel about getting money out of politics? That type of thing. Could you give me some information that I could share with Dave Lerner? And he's going to ask these questions, and maybe in a way we could find out where everybody is. At this point, there's quite a few. Most of them are all for Wyoming Promise. And
several of them have made this a very central issue in their campaign. Gary Trauner, Rod Miller have both made this a very central. Travis Helm, another one, they're very much in favor of what we're doing.
Right.
So that's a great question to ask, and we'll come up with something to give you to give to Dave Lerner.
Okay, I appreciate that, and I'm looking forward to seeing you guys tomorrow.
Yes,
yeah,
we're looking forward to being there.
Yeah, and just to follow up, Melody Nielsen, county team leader in Laramie County there is, we have an event on our Facebook page, and but it's Wyoming Promise kind of town hall tomorrow night, 7 to 9. I believe James Bird's going to be there, and Rod Miller, as well as Ken and myself. And then the next week is a town hall with more candidates a week from tomorrow, from Thursday. So if you're in Cheyenne, look for that, and definitely check that out and go to it. If anybody has any questions, feel free to follow up with us. That's all.
Thank you. And last question, Sarah Salsey from Albany County. Go ahead, Sarah.
So I just wanted to let you know that I have an article with information about the various brew fests that are going on around the state. And if you'd like, I'd be happy to pass that on to someone who could pass it out statewide.
Okay. Yeah. So if you want to pass that on to us, we can make sure it gets out to Jennifer and to Shayna, and they can make use of it with their county team leaders, and we can probably maybe attach it also, Shelby, to the wrap-up email that's going to go out.
That would be great. I will pass that on to you.
Okay, thank you.
Just to wrap up, this is Shelby. We'll in the recap, we're going to include all of those things we talked about and some valuable resources. So we'll be sending that out tomorrow, I believe, tomorrow morning. Hopefully, as soon as we get the recording of the call we'll be able to send this out. So in the next day or two.
Okay, so we've imposed on you a little more than an hour, but thank you all for hanging in here with this important phone call. And once again, I just want to express my thanks to everybody who's here on the call. You guys are getting it done, and it's through all your hard work. This award that we're getting belongs to every one of you on this call. So we'll be the representatives on stage smiling for the cameras, but it's all up to you guys. It's all because of you. So thank you so much for all of your help, and look forward to working with you, and look forward to working with Jennifer and Shana as we go through the summer and get the signatures. Shelby, any final words, Shelby?
Not for me. Just thanks to everybody, and we'll continue to be in touch. Thank you.
Thank you so much, everybody. Good night.
You are currently the only person in this conference.